to Folklore Unlocked. I'm Austin, and I'm joined by Ethan.
Hello again, everyone.
And this week we are covering werewolves, which is fitting because we just had Friday the 13th here last week, and Halloween's coming up, and werewolves are very famous to be, you know, October.
Yeah, especially full moons. That's anytime full moons happen.
And a werewolf is also called a lycanthrope, and it's somebody that can shapeshift into a wolf either fully or partially during a full moon. So it's a very specific form of shapeshifting. And its powers and abilities are its ability to transform into a wolf or at least a humanoid wolf with super strength, speed, and agility. It also has the power of regeneration and immortality, which, you know, is a blessing or a curse to
And
be
this,
immortal.
yeah, I think in this term it's probably a curse because it's always called the curse of the lycanthrope and not like, oh, you get the powers of a wolf and everything. So,
Well, just think if you're immortal, you'd outlive everybody that you ever cared about,
mm-hmm. Okay.
which
Oh, go ahead.
would suck. Which would suck.
Yeah, yeah. So there were some ways that they found to spot a suspected werewolf. That's in like, yeah, that's in quotes there. So one of the things they looked for was whenever a person was in human form or whatever, the person was supposed to have curved fingernails, which were supposed to be kind of like curved claws. Apparently, also they had lower than normal ears, a swinging stride, kind of like a wolf. For some reason, a unibrow, I guess just more hair in general, be more werewolf-like. And then bristles or hairs underneath the tongue, which is that was kind of weird. Then in wolf form, it was thought that werewolves did not have a tail, and whenever they ran on three legs, and then they held their fourth leg behind them to appear like they have a tail, like a normal wolf would from a distance. And also, whenever someone would hurt a werewolf, it was thought that it would leave a mark, and then whenever the person turned back into human form, the human would still have the mark. So that was another way to find a werewolf. And kind of like zombies and whatnot like that, werewolves are usually like caused by getting physically like either bit or scratched by a werewolf, or also sometimes being placed under a curse. And also, there is another time where they talked about if you remove your clothes and put on a belt made of wolf skin, that could also turn you into a werewolf.
Sounds a lot like a skinwalker, which we previously talked about.
Yeah, that's the thing. Whenever I read that, I'm like, yeah, this is kind of having some parallels to a lot of different other things we talked about. Also drinking rainwater out of a footprint of the animal. So that was kind of like I can't remember exactly what who thought that, but then also this one I thought was kind of funny was sleeping outside on a summer night on a certain Wednesday or Friday with the full moon shining directly on your face. So if you were just like sleeping outside one random summer night and it just happened to be like a Wednesday or a Friday, you could possibly be turned into a werewolf from what that said.
Like, I understand Friday because some cultures believe Friday's like a day of bad luck and all, but Wednesday?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's like the most random day, and I know we usually record on Wednesdays, but for something like a curse, Wednesday, you pick a Wednesday?
Well, the only thing I think of maybe is like are full moons more likely to be on Wednesdays or Fridays? I mean, I have no idea. I don't think there's any.
Uh, I don't know. I'm not an astrologist.
That was the only thing I could think of. It's like, oh, maybe they happen more often on Wednesdays and Fridays, full moons do, and that's the reason why it's more likely to happen on certain ones.
Like, I understand Friday from like a superstitious point of view because different cultures consider Friday bad luck, and that's why partially why Friday the 13th is Friday the 13th and not like Monday the 13th or something.
Yeah, yeah.
But the curse of lycanthropy is considered divine punishment either by gods or saints cursing someone. And the and probably the most famous case was King Lycon, who was turned into a wolf by Zeus as punishment for slaughtering one of his own sons and serving his, well, remains to the gods as a dinner, which is just not very appetizing, if you ask me. And then St. Patrick was said to have transformed the Welsh king Veronicus into a wolf. So you got semi cannibalism and just somebody was like, wolf.
Just turn into a wolf. So, really, to kill a werewolf from like modern standards, the main way to kill a werewolf is through silver, and I'm sure everyone has heard of killing a werewolf with the silver bullet. It's probably the most well-known like weakness of anything that I've heard of, other than like maybe vampires with stakes and whatnot. But really, anything with silver could hurt a werewolf in this sense. So, like knives and swords, if you had those. I mean, even if you wanted to go into a fist fight with a werewolf, I guess you could have like brass knuckles made of silver instead of brass.
Then
And
they would be silver knuckles, not brass knuckles.
yeah, yes, yes. But yeah, like really anything silver is thought to counteract their regeneration ability. So you could hurt them with other stuff, but they would try like it would they would regenerate quickly. So technically, you could probably kill them with about anything. Like if you hit them with a train or something like that. I mean, I'm sure a train would probably kill them, but it's one of those things you just have to hurt them enough that they cannot heal fast enough. Then also, mistletoe and wolfsbane are said to be toxic to werewolves. So I guess if you gave them enough of it, or if you got them around it for long enough, it could possibly kill them. So, but those are really the only things I could find that kill werewolves. That, and I saw in a few cases beheading, but I mean, I don't know for sure.
That I think that would kill anything, really.
Well, that's the thing. Like, if that, like, it just killed them right out. It wasn't one of those things they could really regenerate from. So,
I find that werewolves have this like weakness to wolf's bane, since wolf is in the name wolf's bane.
hey, or maybe it was named Wolfsbane because it was toxic to werewolves. Maybe, like, because.
Uh-huh.
Oh, oh. I don't know why mistletoe, though. Mistletoe seems like a kind of weird one. Mostly you think about that around Christmas time, but.
Yeah, and getting kissed under it, but not here.
Mm-mm. So, some of the cures and remedies, there's quite a few of them actually for werewolves. Like, not a ton of ways to kill them, but if you want to cure them, there's quite a few. So, the ancient Greeks and Romans believed in the power of exhaustion. So, they would make the werewolf or victim subject to long periods of physical activity in hope to purge the malady. So imagine just like making them work out in the field or run around the city a thousand times or something like that. Then medieval Europe, traditionally there are three methods that can use to cure lycanthrope. So medically with wolfsbane, so I guess like taking and eating wolfsbane or something along those lines. Surgically, which I have no idea what they did, but it was one of the ways. And then exorcism, because the church is always into these things.
Because begone, Satan.
Exactly. Anything like that is just like, oh no, that's like demon stuff, you know?
Yeah, it's begone, Satan.
Uh, and Sicilian belief of Arabic origins holds that a werewolf can be cured of its ailment by striking it on the forehead or scalp with a knife, which that seems very, very easy. Which I guess if it was in werewolf form and you had to hit it with a knife, it could be pretty hard on the forehead. That
I wonder if it's like broadside knife or with like a blade edge or stabbing motion though.
well, I don't know. I almost thought it might be with like the hilt of it, like you might hit it with the back end of the knife. I don't know. And then also piercing a werewolf's hands with nails. I saw that a couple different places. So I mean, just like I guess crucifying a werewolf would cure it somehow.
Silver.
Yeah, exactly. Probably silver nails. That'd probably be it. Which I also heard that possibly iron could be also used with werewolves. So, which that's like a lot of like ghosts and stuff like that. Iron does do stuff to them. Then I have a few more cures and remedies continued here. So in German lowlands, I'm not even going to try to say that.
Schleswig Holstein.
That sounds good. So a werewolf could be cured if one were to simply address it 3 times by its Christian name. So if you just said its Christian name 3 times to it, that would cure it. That seems pretty
Sounds
easy.
a sounds a lot like the Cajun version down in Louisiana of the werewolf called the Rougarou or Loup-garou, which we'll probably get to sometime in the future.
Did it get cured if you said its name 3 times, or
Uh, I'm not sure if it was 3 times, but like if you found out its identity and said its name while it and like I forget if it was in its wolf form or human form, it would be cured.
okay?
I have to check to be sure when we get to that video, but
Yeah. Then also there are some Danish beliefs that hold that if you scold a werewolf, it will cure it. So if you just be like swipe or no swiping kind of thing, and it just cures it.
yeah, I can see some like 80-year-old little old lady saying, "Bad boy, bad boy, no."
Yeah, I can just imagine that. Oh. Then also conversion to Christianity. Okay, if you convert to Christianity, it's another common method of removing lycanthropy. It was in the medieval period, so if you join the church, you're also cured. That's another thing. And then also devotion to Saint Hubert has been cited to both cure and protect from lycanthropes. So
And some werewolf trials, they came about in the 15th century, which would have been the 1400s in Switzerland, especially among the Elias and Vod people. And Peter Stump had one of the most famous werewolf trials in 1589, wherein the evidence was he was a werewolf of Bedburg, had a missing left paw, and Stump was missing his left hand. And he was tortured until he confessed to the crimes, which seems a lot like forced confession to me. And he was beheaded and burned. So instead of burn the witch, it was burn the wolf.
Now, if you read the torture techniques, it would make anyone confess to that. Because there were some things that they said, like they used stones to crush his bones and stuff like that. And they also were like whipping, and I think they also like I can't remember if it's Hans or Peter, but I think they ended up flaying his daughter and his mistress. I think, like they were doing some heinous stuff to him and the people he cared about to make him confess. It was terrible.
And speaking of Hans, who was supposedly a werewolf in 1651, he claimed that he had received a wolf skin from a strange man black. And sadly, we're not talking about Johnny Cash here. We're talking about the devil. And he said he was able to transform into a wolf when wearing the skin, and he was sentenced to death. And Thice or Thies, whose trial happened in 1692, claimed that he was transformed into a werewolf through the power of God, and he descended into hell 3 times a year to fight Satan's demons, and he was sentenced to a good whipping.
That was the most interesting one I found through the trials because this was the only time I saw that someone claimed it was the power of God that turned him into a werewolf. All the other ones, it was like, oh, demons and Satan and like different like curses and whatnot. This one was quite literally, oh, God told me to go fight demons in hell, and I do it 3 times a year. And there's like, you know what? Just some whippings. We won't kill you. Just some whippings.
Exactly.
Okay, and here is one of the things that we think could be like the reason why people thought like werewolves and people look like werewolves was hypertrichosis. And it was called werewolf syndrome because, as you can see from the pictures here, it made people grow hair in normal parts of their body. Like it, in the picture there, you can see this person's whole face is covered in hair, not just like a beard area or something like that, but like literally everything except for like just a little bit on the nose and around, like just around the eyes. And there are two types of this. One is generalized, which is over the entire body, and then others are localized, where it's restricted to a certain area. And it was either present at birth, which is congenital, or acquired later in life. And I saw some like medications that can cause this. Like if you take them, like it could cause like localized areas of hair growth. And yeah, there was one. The first recorded case of it was Petrus Gonzalvis. Sounds right. And he was, I think, he was in France, and he was actually like a nobleman almost, and he was known as the Wild Gentleman of. Do you have any idea how to say that, Austin?
Probably Tenerife.
Tenerife. Okay. And then the Canarian Werewolf, which understandable since how much hair he had. I understand why they would think werewolf by that because it's kind of weird. And also, I think 4 of his children ended up also having it. So it was one of those that it was very much genetic for his family.
And besides King Lycon from Greek myths, that who we mentioned earlier, another famous werewolf comes from a franchise we mentioned last week, Harry Potter, in the form of Remus Lupin, who is also a wizard. So there we go. We get Harry Potter 2 weeks in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And my thoughts are it's just a story or a misunderstanding of a person with hypertrichosis, which, like we just said, is an abnormal growth of hair all over the body, or just something that they didn't understand.
Yeah, I also agree with them. I don't believe in werewolves at all. Hypertrichosis, that seems like a very good way to like point someone out or whatever because people look different and people make fun of them or point fingers at them. So, and yeah, I don't know. I don't believe him.
Cool stories, but I think it's just that stories and or misunderstanding of hypertrichosis, and them wanting to get rid of people they didn't like we mentioned in the Witches and Wizard video. So, pretty sure that's our thoughts.
Yeah, like kind of like when we go back to the werewolf trials or whatever. That first guy, like the most well-known one, quite literally the only evidence they had was that he was missing his left hand, and the werewolf that was said to go around was missing its left paw. That was the only evidence they had against the guy that I could find, and I'm like, that is aggravating right there. It's like, oh, you're missing your left hand, it's missing its left paw, it's definitely you. That just made me so angry.
That was some weak sauce evidence.
Exactly. Even like in some of the witches trials, I think they've had more evidence, which I don't think those were real either. But
But next week we're going to cover uh, even more bloodier bird creature and the vampire. So before we end it, any final words, Ethan?
no, just thanks for watching, everyone.
So thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe if you're listening to YouTube. Follow if you're on Spotify. And we'll see you next week for our episode on vampires.
Yep. Bye, everyone.